What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that is the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What that does is that it helps to ensure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching the channel for quite some time now, please hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platform to inform people about this news and information, and it also assists me in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And what I want to do is revisit a topic that I spoke on earlier today when I released a video on Eric Adams wanting to put in place metal detectors inside of migrant shelters because these migrant shelters are becoming hubs for criminal activity and all type of violence that continuously breaks out, specifically in the migrant shelter known as Randall Island, which goes by the nickname of the death shelter. But in the news clip that we were watching, it was brought up multiple times, Eric Adams' desire to make some minor changes to the sanctuary city policy of New York. So what I want to do is dive into some news clips concerning what he's saying. And there's something that I want to focus on very specifically in these clips. So let's dive into the first clip right now, just so we can get a little bit more detailed information on what's going on with New York concerning Eric Adams and a small handful of New York City councilmen and women who do want to make some changes to the sanctuary city policy.
The mayor says it is simple. If you don't have respect for the laws in this city and you don't obey the laws in the city, then you don't deserve to be here, especially if you're an undocumented person.
Sounds pretty basic to me. I can agree with that.
We can't have these small number of migrants and asylum seekers that have identified that they're going to be dangerous, hide under the law.
Mayor Adams calling for changes to these laws, a pivot from what makes New York City a sanctuary city.
And if I had my way, if you are repeatedly committing crimes in our city, like the individual did a serious crime and then got out and went and assaulted and did a robbery, you don't have the right to be in our city and tarnish those overwhelming number who are here following the rules.
Mayor,
I agree with him 100% on that. Now, what I want everybody to focus on is that Mayor Eric Adams, he's not calling for a complete overhaul of the sanctuary policy that's really burdening New York City. He's not calling for that. He's calling for a minor alteration as it pertains to allowing NYPD to communicate and collaborate with ICE concerning apprehending criminals and handing over illegal immigrant criminals to ICE, as well as honoring detainers that are issued out by ICE to get a hold, right, of illegal immigrant criminals. That's what he's specifically speaking about. And it's important for me to highlight that because what you're going to see is that the supporters of the sanctuary city policy who are in city council, they're going to conflate issues concerning criminality and just the basics of migrants trying to survive in the city and being treated unfairly. So just pay attention as we continue moving forward and keep in mind what Eric Adams is speaking about.
Mayor Adams wants ICE to be involved as soon as arrests of migrants are made so the NYPD can help start the deportation process for violent criminals that are undocumented. Currently, it takes a conviction before an undocumented person accused of a crime will be turned over to federal authorities. City Council Republican Minority Leader Joe Borelli is on the mayor's side.
If we're going to be a progressive city and allow people to come here, even if they've come illegally, the line has to stop when they start acting inappropriately, committing crimes, committing violent crimes.
But he's at odds with the majority of his city council counterparts.
You know, what we saw years ago was ICE being present in spaces that should be safe, like our schools and our hospitals. That should never be something that happens.
But that's not what they're talking about. That's not what they're talking about. And you're going to see the continued conflation between what Eric Adams is talking about and what the supporter of the sanctuary cities is talking about. You're going to see this repeated conflation between the issues that is at hand. That is not what Eric Adams and the other city councilmen is speaking about.
Said yesterday also he was talking about this change of the sanctuary city laws and how he would like to do that to work better with ICE and the NYPD, but he needs the city council to do it. Will the city council take that up as an issue to vote on?
So absolutely not. New York City has had a long history.
So she just said off the bat, absolutely not. It's not happening. Don't even ask me about anything as foolish as that, because we're not going to go there at all, because it's her intent to protect illegal immigrant criminals. And her name, to be exact, she's city councilwoman out of New York City. Her name is Alexa I believe it's pronounced Aviles. If I'm saying that correctly, I'm not really sure, but her last name is spelled Aviles. So Aviles, I believe, is her last name. I just wanted to make sure to put that out there so we know who we're actually listening to, and that you guys can look her up for herself. And maybe, hopefully, if you're in her district, you can vote her out. You know,
History of sanctuary. In fact, started in 1986. And every year, every administration, Republican and Democrat, has made sure to ensure that, to strengthen that system of sanctuary. Sanctuary keeps us all safe, right? How
does sanctuary keep you all safe when you guys keep letting illegal immigrant criminals on the loose roaming around New York City because they have no fear of being deported? How does that even make logical sense? It's actually very literally keeping the citizens of New York very unsafe at the moment. But who cares about the citizens, right? Nobody cares about that. We got to protect these illegal immigrants.
It was meant and continues to be a way for the immigrant community to continue to work with civil society and civic organizations. So I would love the mayor to actually read up on the history of New York City and know that there is due process, and we are a country of due process and humanitarian agreements and response. And there is a process for the things. If we need the criminal legal system to respond, it will respond appropriately. But there is due process. You can't just skip over the court and decide because you're angry about something. You can just eliminate all those things.
But they're not skipping over the court. That's not what's happening. This woman is a liar. They're not skipping over anything. They're allowing the federal government to take care of the matter now. We're going to hand you over to ICE, federal law enforcement, and you're going to have to answer to your crimes to them, which essentially will lead to deportation because you're going to be found guilty because you got caught in 4K doing what you were doing. So what Eric Adams is attempting to do is 100% the right thing. The moment you commit a crime and we see that you're undocumented, you're immediately getting handed over to ICE. And you can fight it out with them. Due process is still going to occur. You're just going to have to handle it with federal law enforcement. And that's not what she wants. She wants them to remain in New York City because essentially it seems like what she wants is havoc. That's what it seems as if she wants. She wants havoc. And the other thing, too, that I want to make mention of and that I don't want to let escape me before we get out of here is that I want the men and women of Chicago to pay attention and pay attention closely. In places like New York City and Los Angeles, where I'm at, it's a wrap. It's a done deal in these areas. Cities like this are immigrant cities. That's what they are now at this point, right? So you're going to have multiple people and multiple women that are in local government, like Alexa here, Councilwoman Alexa, that for them, eliminating sanctuary city policy, let alone just making a minor alteration to it, is a non-starter. She told you immediately that's not happening. I'm not standing by that at all. But in places like Chicago, you are so close. You were so close this year of getting the referendum on the ballot, right? To have the citizens of Chicago vote on whether or not they wanted Chicago to remain a sanctuary city. And we all know the data is out that Chicagoans don't want that. You are so close to getting that on the ballot. And I think that fight should continue going into November to see if you can get that referendum on the November ballot. Because what's going to happen, mark my words, that this is what's going to happen, because I've done videos on this in the past, right? After 2030, what you're going to see is a significant boost in the Hispanic population in Chicago. And what happened when the 2020 census came out? Many of you may not be aware of this, but what happened was that there was a huge fight between the Congressional Black Caucus of Chicago and the Latino Congressional Caucus or Hispanic Congressional Caucus of Chicago, in which the Congressional Hispanic Caucus wanted to redistrict the Chicago map so that they can take more so they can cover more political ground. Basically, they wanted to take more political ground by redistricting the map in favor of their demographic. They weren't successful, to say the very least. But the reality is this: come 2030, when the new census data comes out, Black Chicagoans will be outnumbered by a good percentage margin in comparison to Hispanics. And after 2030, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is going to come back around. They're going to redistrict the map, and they're playing for keeps. They're going to take as much as possible based upon the fact that they are now outnumbering you by about 7, if not possibly 10%. Okay. So my point is that while you all still have some sort of political power, while there is still a chance, you better make sure that you're on your P's and Q's concerning who's in city council and keeping your foot on their necks, for lack of better words, to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do in order to remove the sanctuary city policy from Chicago completely, to strip it from the city. Because after 2030, mark my words, Chicago is going to become the next Los Angeles / New York City. And you can forget about it as it pertains to the sanctuary city policies or anything of this nature that protects illegal immigrants. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the like button on your way out, share this video out on your social media platforms, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And lastly, make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to the Telegram is in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section as well. And until the next video, peace.